YouTube is absolutely blowing up small channels. And if you're a content creator, a coach, or a consultant that wants to grow an audience and generate revenue, then this video is definitely for you. And I'm going to talk about some things that I've used, not only myself when I was 18 to grow my first faceless channels and build monetization pathways, but the things I've noticed from clients and coaches that I work with that generate 50K, 100K plus months. And a lot of it isn't going to be the conventional wisdom that you see in the online space. And just for introduction, my name is Toby Seymour. I help build out content systems to help you generate a minimum extra to 20, 30K per month. I'm also a content creator under different names as well. But for the most part, if you're watching this, you have to understand that there's a shift in the marketplace that's currently happening in terms of the economy of attention, the attention economy. So you're watching this on YouTube right now, but there has been shifts in the algorithm in terms of how people consume content. Previously, in 2020 and 2019, we saw the rise of TikTok, right? The rise of short form content. And this definitely did take a hit to all of the other platforms such as Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube as we saw the advent of YouTube Shorts. We saw the creation of Reels on Instagram and these platforms scrambling to copy this new feature that is becoming so addicting. But over that course of time, since 2020 to now, platforms like TikTok have started to expand their product offering with TikTok Shop. They started to be able to upload long form videos. Like I upload, some of these long form videos to my TikTok accounts, and they work. They actually convert. There was a case study of a client that I was working with that generated a few 100,000 views for a long form video on a short form native platform. And the reason why this is happening is because the short form content system isn't entirely effective for the longest amounts of conversion as well as sustainability. It's very good for short dopamine bursts, but to get people to come back time and time again, as well as from an advertising perspective, it's a little bit trickier to monetize. Now you might have to ask yourself, how the hell does this benefit you as a creator or someone who's a coach or a consultant in your business? Well, now there's definitely going to be a shift back to long form, and we're already seeing that with written content. The advent of Substack and blog posts kind of really taken a return. Long-term think pieces, podcasts have always been here, but they've definitely taken an increase in popularity over the past few years. So if you're someone who has a knowledge in a particular field, or you're someone who has a business, it's very important for you to understand the landscape of how YouTube now is actually blowing up normal people who just have a camera like this. Maybe they sit down in the woods, they sit down in their car, and they are printing disgusting amounts of money. If you're a high ticket coach, you might think you need to have this fancy setup and this and this and that. You don't need that, dude. I've seen people close high ticket deals, 15, 25K, paid in fulls, all because they're sitting in their car talking. Now there's different variables and I think systems that have to go into that. It's a multivariate equation, meaning that there's multiple layers as in that success. It's not like, oh, well, this person can just open the camera and start talking. There's a huge backstory that a lot of people talk about, and this is usually one of the things that I work with my clients is just trying to get an understanding of where they're at in their life journey. If you're an entrepreneur for 30 years, you've led teams, you've spoken on stage, the likelihood that you can go and open a camera and talk to it like I'm talking now and articulate your offer, tell your story, and introduce yourself is going to be exponentially easier than someone who just started a business, right? So it's not for the faint of heart. It's not an easy thing to necessarily do because it really depends on the person. And a lot of content creators can get into a bubble and realize it's not for everyone and not everyone can do it, but you can improve on your skills. So if you're watching this and you aren't an entrepreneur or you aren't someone who's very savvy, then you can improve. It's not something that I started out when I was 18, doing all the time, but as I got better and better and I put in more and more hours, I can articulate myself faster. I have stronger hooks. I understand the psychology of buyers and viewers. So there's a little bit of a learning curve that has to take place as well as the skill stack. But once you have the skills or you already have existing skills, then from there it's just a matter of consistency and packaging. And that's also something I work on with my clients in terms of content ideation and knowing how to title the videos, what videos to talk about, what are the formats that are working the best, so that the way they can get the most amount of views, the most amount of impressions that can ultimately funnel to their offer and their package. Because you might see a lot of people who say they've been posting for years and years and years and they don't see success. it's because there's a lack of a feedback loop, like Alex Hormozy talks about. But also, they're also probably not touching on the right formats. If you're creating content in the right formats, I can guarantee that you'll go viral, right? I'm basically going to guarantee at some point in time I'm going to go viral over the next year or two on this account because I understand formats. I understand how to structure formats and find the right formats in terms of trend research and trend jacking. So on TikTok, it's very similar to that as well. YouTube is a little bit trickier, but I also think it's all social media platforms. Once you understand the format that's already existing or already working in that particular platform, from there it's just very easy. But now on YouTube, the platform or the format that's working on this platform is also going back to just very normal person talking head content that's always been around, but it's starting to perform and convert better because it feels almost like you're talking to a friend. It feels very parasocial. It's not overly salesy, overly animated. I've even had clients say that they've lost success with their channels because they started to make them a little bit too professional. They started to do a little bit too much when they could have just relaxed, opened their camera in their car and talked to their audience like a normal person, like I'm talking to you. I don't need to have an army of 10,000 editors making these clips to hack your attention, and it almost insults your intelligence, especially if you're a high-level business owner or an entrepreneur. But to summarize what I'm saying is that if you're an entrepreneur, a coach, or a consultant, you don't need to overthink it anymore, right? We're at the point where all you need to do is work on your packaging and work on your ideation, your titles, a little bit of thumbnails, the ideas. And if you have the raw knowledge, you have the raw expertise, everything is in your hands for the stars to align and for you to build a successful business online utilizing YouTube or any content funnel.